Hi, this is Red Ibis Coach. I'm Heather. Thank you for stopping by. I want to tell you that the way I plan to move abroad, the way I move as I move abroad, and the way you might do the same will not be perfect. None of my moves have ever been perfect. They've been necessary, they've been exciting, they've been anxiety inducing, but I would never say they've been perfect. And perfection is not the goal. You will not, especially if it's your first time, even if it's your first time to a new country, even if you've traveled a lot and this is your first time to a new country, you won't do it perfectly. And again, perfection is not the goal. So, what is the goal? The goal is peace. The goal is learning something new. The goal is getting up out of a place that sucks you dry financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, morally, and seeking the sovereignty and possibility that our ancestors were denied. I think that is much better than perfection and arguably is perfect in and of itself. So I have lived abroad several times now. I went to Japan in 2005. I went to Australia in 2007. I went to Japan from Australia in 2010, and then I went back to Japan in 2014, and then I tried to go to Japan in 2021, but even though I had the contract signed at the school and they were ready and waiting for me, and everything was good on the Japan side in terms of the certificate of eligibility, which is necessary to apply for the visa. Here in the US, they were not processing visas. So when I called the consulate, they told me it's impossible. So I had to let that opportunity go. So 5 years ago, I tried to go back to Japan and I couldn't. And I had to accept that and focus on the career that I had established here and just build up that experience. Be okay with that, which was hard. It was very hard, but I did. And to be honest, I would not have been able to get my master's degree if I hadn't done that because I was able to save up a lot of money and pay for my whole degree and all of the costs of living in Ireland out of pocket. I did not have any loans or any financial assistance of any kind. So, what's interesting is when I went to Ireland, it was so deceptively easy that I over engineered things. So, like, I'm used to so much paperwork and like a lot of things, a lot of decisions being made on the other end. So, like, the school making decisions and having like a point of contact, a consistent point of contact to reach out to. That didn't happen for Ireland. Even when I would call and try to get information about like when a US citizen is allowed to enter Ireland to study, because we don't apply for a visa, we apply for residency after we arrive. Nobody could give me a straight answer. Can I come 3 months before my program starts? Can I come 1 month before my program starts? The answer was it depends on the immigration officer you speak to when you arrive in Ireland. That is a risk that made me extremely uncomfortable, especially because I was bringing my cat. Like, what's going to happen when I get there? Are they going to be fine with it? What paperwork are they going to ask me for? What do they want to know? I didn't get a straight answer. Whenever I would ask specifics on stuff in terms of the university, the way the university would give me a non-answer in the email, almost as if I was stupid, really sucked. But I had to just piece together what seemed to make sense. So what I ended up doing is comparing other countries that don't require a US citizen to apply for a student visa before they arrive, or have some flexibility about how soon before the classes start you are allowed to arrive in that country. So I compared Canada and the UK, and they said up to 3 months before classes start, you could arrive, was what Canada said. I think the UK might have been like 1 month before. And I was like, I am not getting an answer from the university. I'm not getting an answer from immigration. I've asked several times. They will not give me a straight answer. Nobody wants to be on the hook for giving me a straight answer. It was extremely nerve-wracking. Am I sad? Am I crying? Am I put upon that I am fortunate enough and privileged enough with the passport that I hold that I didn't have to apply for a student visa, while people in African nations and in India were held up to the point that they could no longer study because the visa process was taking so long? No. But if I'm trying to follow the rules, but I don't know what the rules are, that makes it really hard to follow the rules, doesn't it? So what I ended up doing was changing my plan quite a bit. I had already quit my job. I already bought the ticket. Luckily, the ticket was flexible. So I ended up changing the ticket twice. I ended up leaving in August and then starting university in September. So I gave it about a month to adjust, to explore a tiny bit, and that was what I had to do to make do with the limited information. And this is something that will happen for you at some point. Most countries, especially like a country like Japan, all the rules are in front of you. You don't have to guess, but there are still some unwritten rules no matter where you go. Those unwritten rules require you to be flexible, to be calm and collected, to adapt and adjust as needed. And there are unwritten rules in the US too, especially for racialized people or other oppressed groups. There are rules that we learn every time we move to a new city, every time we start a new job, every time we work on our taxes and things like that. There are rules that are not written anywhere necessarily that we learn to follow. So going to a new country doesn't necessarily change that. However, because we are used to that in the US, we can respond accordingly, and always have like a plan B in our heads in terms of like, okay, I'm going to try this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to try this. And always have that adaptability and resilience in mind. And why would we put ourselves outside of our comfort zone just for all of this? Why would we risk being embarrassed, risk doing the wrong thing, risk making a mistake? Because it's still worth it. I can tell you, after living in Australia, Japan, and Ireland, that it's still worth it to try and it's still worth it to explore. You might choose a country that you end up feeling really unhappy in. This has happened to me twice now. When I've lived in Australia, I had a really hard time with the racism there. The casual racism was overwhelming and I couldn't get used to it. I could not get used to being called a Negro. I could not get used to the casual, um, just the casual white supremacy. I couldn't get used to it. With Ireland, I don't know what happened. But at some point when I arrived, and this is before I even started classes, this was like when I was staying in Dublin, when I first arrived in Australia before, or in Ireland, before I even got to Cork, which is where my university was, there was a moment, and I will not never forget it, when I was just sitting in the room that I was renting with my cat, and nothing bad happened to me. Everyone had been nice, everyone had been great, everything was going fine. I had figured everything out. I was making other logistical plans. Nothing was going wrong, but I felt like my internal happiness battery, like my life energy, go from like full to half. And that feeling did not go away the whole time I went to Ireland. And some people dismiss it like very casually because they say, well, oh, like when people live in Seattle or Portland, this happens to them because they don't get as much sunlight and it's raining a lot. It had been sunny for most of the days that I was staying in Ireland at that point. And I had been out walking a lot. I was walking every day. I was outside every day because I was exploring. I was checking out the area. I was trying to get the vibe of Ireland. I was buying stuff for my cat. I was figuring out what products work in my hair, like all kinds of like small things that I knew I wouldn't have time to do once I started classes. And I mean, there's no explanation for it. Like some countries just don't work for you. They don't work for your chemistry. They don't work for your energy. They don't work for like what you're looking for reasons that just aren't clear and don't have a good explanation. But that doesn't mean that you made a mistake. That doesn't mean you give up. It means that you are really deliberate and careful about the next choice. And you could get it wrong a few times and you have enough life left. It's going to be okay if that happens. So, like, the only place that I've truly felt at home is in Asia, like places in Asia. So, I've visited Korea before, I've visited South Korea. That was cool. I really want to explore other places in Asia. I just haven't yet because I'm not a nomad in like the sense that I'm hopping from place to place rapidly. I'm a slow traveler. I go and live in a place. So that adds up over time. Like even though the first time I ever went anywhere outside of the US was like in elementary school because I went to Canada and I've been to Canada several times since then. It's just a slow process for me. I like to take my time. So even though I went and visited Iceland and that was cool, I still would have preferred to stay. But I can't stay in Iceland because of my cat, because I will not subject her to the quarantine where they keep your cat in a facility. I can't do that to her. She does not do well in that kind of environment. She gets sick every time, so I can't do that. So what I'm trying to say is that you can be patient. You can make a pact with yourself that you will not be hard on yourself if the thing you tried didn't work out because you always have a chance to try something different. And sometimes it takes some tenacity. Sometimes it takes some like leaning into the uncertainty and just taking a chance on yourself and taking a leap. Sometimes it takes going back home and resetting. Sometimes it takes being really honest with yourself about what is right for you. So we're seeing this pattern here, Australia, Ireland, two countries that have also been colonized by Britain, and the vibes feel bad. Who knows if it has anything to do with the colonization, but they didn't work for me. So what does that mean for my next step? Well, certainly I'm going back to Japan. But I also am a little bit more flexible now about traveling in between. I may end up in Canada or Mexico before I go back to Japan. That's fine. I want to explore some more of this side of the world before I'm on that side of the world, because anywhere I go is restricted a bit by my cat. Because there are rules and regulations and vet visits that need to happen. For you, you might not have a cat, you might not have kids. That will make your decisions a lot easier. It's okay to do this and feel like you're winging it. In some ways, you are. And that doesn't, again, mean that you're doing anything wrong. Clinging to certainty is what is keeping you stuck in the US. And being okay with a little discomfort is what will help you grow and what will help you have a really amazing time wherever you end up in the world. So that's all for today. Please like and subscribe if you found this interesting or helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow.